Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1659. The topic is nutrition and the title is Why Most Diets Fail. Bum 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 bum. Well, I won't dance around it. The true reason why most diets fail is they're not customized, so they're not consistent. That's it. People try to fit themselves to a diet rather than fitting the diet to them. And since they try to fit to the diet, it might not be perfectly matched to their lifestyle. And I'll talk about different aspects here in a second, but it might not be perfectly matched to their lifestyle. Therefore, they're not going to be consistent. They're going to change this, change that. They're going to miss this, miss that. Then they're going to freak out, worry if they're getting everything right, worry if they're getting everything wrong. Then you feel like a failure because you're uncertain, and then you quit. There are a million reasons why people will quit diets. But what I believe to be the main reason is that the diets aren't customized, and then that leads to them not being consistent. So 5 reasons why most diets fail. Number 1 is schedule. Unfortunately, there's a lot of diets that require meals to be eaten at very specific times. So let's say, for example, you eat at 7, maybe somewhere in the mid-morning, let's say 10 o'clock, you eat lunch at 1, then you have an afternoon snack maybe around 4 and a late supper around, say, 7. And diets will say, okay, those have to be your times. Well, what happens if, after work, you get the 4 o'clock thing in, but there's a thing at 7 that you're supposed to have the meal there, but you have a social event or you have a family event or something happens and you're like, well, I have to go to that at 6. I'm not going to be able to eat, at 7. Do I eat before then? Before my family social event thing at 6, or do I wait and I eat afterwards? But what if it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock? Is that too close to when I go to bed? Is that going to make me gain body fat? Should I just not eat? What if I skip meals? What I'm not supposed to skip meals? And it's like you just go nuts, because our lives are not 100% consistent. Surprise! I'm not sure if you know that or not, but our lives are not 100% consistent. They're certainly not 100% predictable. So setting meal times that are specific is a recipe for disaster, because you will not be able to eat your meals at the exact same times every day unless you were to make your nutrition the highest priority, to where, like, if there's a social event and you would miss a meal, you would just skip the social event. That's really not healthy, mentally, emotionally, socially, relationally, all of these, but it's just not healthy. Now, people can do it short term. I help people get pro cards in aesthetic sports, like drug tested, non-tested. And when you get to, the last couple of weeks of a contest prep, you do have to start to say, okay, I kind of need this to matter more than almost everything else. Not more than my closest relationships, not more than certain other components of life, but it needs to be up there in priority, to where, like, say, for example, like I had one client one time, he would not go to the movies because he believed he had to eat every 3 hours. And he's like, well, if I eat a meal, then we drive to the movie theater. By the time the movie starts, by the time we get out and I get back home, it feels like it's too close to 3 hours, so I'm just not going to go to the movies. Meanwhile, he was dating his girlfriend, I think, that loved the movies, or something about she always wanted to go to the movies. Apparently going to the movies was a thing. So, and then it became a bad thing because he wouldn't go. And we were not in contest prep. He was off season. And I was like, dude, you have got to breathe. It is okay if you don't eat exactly every 3 hours. Why don't we stretch that time frame out and you have more fats, dietary fats at that first meal, rather than carbohydrates. So that way the meal doesn't digest within 3 hours. It takes 4 to 5 hours to digest. You still get a slow, steady stream of energy in your bloodstream, and you get a slow, steady stream of protein. So if we eat a fattier meat, then that'll take 4 to 5 hours to digest, and you can take 4 or 5 hours between the meals. You can go see a movie. I was like, you got to learn how to modify this, man. Like, you can't be living your life by a 3-hour time clock. And there's absolutely no need to do so. So as I said, I've helped people get super freaking shredded. Like, veins on their abs shredded. And we never had things to be like that and super intense. Like when I got people close down to contest prep, the window that I would normally ask them, I'm like, hey, when you normally have your meals, so let's say they normally have their meals at 7, noon, 3, and then 7. And that's what their schedule could be consistent at. I'd be like, okay, fine. We don't need to change what your schedule is. Let's just eat enough fats at the 7 a.m. meal to last till noon. Let's not eat a lot of fats at the noon meal so it's digested and gone by 3, so you're hungry enough to eat at 3. But then at 3 o'clock, we want to have a little more fats back in there so that meal lasts until 7. Then the meal at 7, we have to have a lot of fats, mostly fats and proteins at all, and then just let that slowly trickle into our bloodstream throughout the night until we wake up and we eat again at 7 a.m. So we would just modify what we ate to match the schedule they had. And then I would say, hey, if you can, these are your normal meal times. Try to be within plus or minus 15 minutes. So if you normally eat at 7, let's aim for 6:45 to 7:15. And that would be the last, say, 6 to 8 weeks or so of a contest prep. Before that, I would just be like, get close. And if they're a half hour off, not the end of the world. We don't want to have too much, variety of timing on a regular basis. But every once in a while, you're just going to have a day that kind of craps the bed and you're just running around reacting to everything. So you have to be able to have a diet that is modifiable in schedule. A second reason why most diets fail is food choices. And this one has to do with taste. They ask you to eat things that you think are disgusting, and then therefore you're not consistent with it. So one of the things that is a typical bodybuilder, like bro diet food is oats. I hate oats. I have eaten so many oats, it is stupid, especially for how much I hate them. But when I was growing up, when I was 16, we had Muscular Development magazine, which was supposed to be like, that was like the hardcore, like you almost feel like you're doing something wrong, you're getting away with something by reading that one because they had drug cycles and they had other things in there. That was like Q&A sections from pros. But like I went from men's fitness to muscular fitness, I think it was, to Muscular Development. And it was fun to read in the magazines. But in the magazines, every bodybuilder had oats. So I had to have oats. That's what they did. That's what I do, Do I like oats? No, I hate oats. But did I want to be big like a bodybuilder? Hell yes, I ate freaking oats. I drank oats one time to the point where I literally threw up because I hate the taste. I couldn't stand the texture because it was in a shake. So it was like protein powder and oats. And I was trying to drink it, although I was gagging. Drank, gag, drink, then threw up. And I was so annoyed and mad because I'd have to make up those calories. I was so mad that I was going to have to eat more food. And that was what I was mostly mad about. Not that I threw up in public and was like a total weirdo chugging on something that made him throw up in the random public spot. I was actually on campus in grad school. But it was just something where I did it because I was supposed to do it, but I hated it. And every chance that I was out of like a specific dietary phase or a certain nutritional goal, I took the oats right back out. Hate oats. But like I said, I would do it if I needed to. The downside is you are likely mentally strong enough to do what you need to do. But that wears you down, and it's really only going to happen for a certain amount of time. Maybe you can do it for a month, 6 months, a year, 3 years. Maybe you're so freaking, mentally tough you can do it for a very long period of time, but it's still draining on you. How much more irritable are you for everything else in your life? And or how many other things in your life are you avoiding or not doing because you're using up so much willpower and like desire to live with annoyance on this food thing. So people don't always want to eat, quinoa. People don't always want to eat kale. People don't always want to eat all the various foods that they think they have to eat. So that's one of the reasons why diets fail is because people think they have to choose specific foods. Another aspect of food choice is convenience. People think they have to, and I can't stand this, is you look on social media and you see a breakfast that like looks beautiful on a plate, but it has like avocado slices, like, over easy egg on a bed of quinoa with 3 different types of like fruits chopped up and put in a certain position. And it's just like, oh my God, the thing looks gorgeous. in a photo. I understand why they made a photo. But you'd have to buy 17 ingredients and all of them are going to go bad in 4 hours. So it's like, I'm not buying an avocado every damn day for breakfast because I can't get an avocado to last longer than 24 hours. It's so frustrating because a lot of foods are just not convenient. When you look at dietary structures, they're like, you got to eat this and you got to eat this. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have time to cook all that. I hate that food. I'm not cooking that. So people will try it, but they can't fit the food prep into their lifestyle. They just struggle to blend it into their current life. So therefore, they're not consistent with it. A fourth component is the balance of structure and adaptability. People can't have total freedom because then they don't know what the hell they're doing and if it's right or wrong. But you can't always have everything black and white because we live in a gray world. Things are always a little here, a little there, a little everywhere. So if a diet is too free, there's total freedom. Eat whatever you want between, say 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eat everything you want. I don't know about that. That's not maybe a really good idea. That sounds like it's going to be a recipe for digestive disaster. But, there's like a very loose structure. And people think that's enough. And initially maybe it is because it accidentally causes a caloric reduction. But it's not going to be sustainable because that's not something that can be sustainable, is saying I have to follow these black and white rules or I have to have no structure whatsoever so that way I can do whatever I need. But people don't know what the hell they need when they first start dieting. So people sometimes have too much structure, not enough structure. We need to have the ability to adapt. And then the fifth reason why most diets fail is they don't teach. Most diets don't teach you why they work. Unfortunately, that's because some people don't know why they work, even though they prescribe the diets. But knowing what's most important, what's most impactful in what you're doing is extremely, extremely helpful. Because as you have to make small modifications to actually personalize the diet, which you will have to do, if you don't know what the most important components are, you'll accidentally modify that most important component and you'll lose the benefit. So, one example is people often think that food quality is the most important component. I'm going to switch from white rice to brown rice. I'm not going to eat any carbohydrates. It's like, oh, that's so stupid. But I understand why people do it. After I just insulted everyone, sorry. But I understand why people do it. It's easier to just say I'm going to eat no carbohydrates in the sense of understanding that. You look up what carbohydrates are, you say, okay, I'm not going to eat any of those. Done. Very understandable. Is it doable long term? No. Is it necessary? No. But it's understandable. The downside is when diets don't teach you what's most important, people are over here trying to swap out entire food groups or switch, simple foods to more complex foods, but they're not paying attention to total calories or total protein content or the actual consistency of timing of their food. There are components that are more impactful than what you eat. How much you eat, what's in what you eat, and when you eat are more important than what you eat. It's important to know that. So those are 5 reasons why most diets fail. Schedule, food choices in regards to taste, food choices in regards to convenience, balance of structure and adaptability, and they don't teach. So what do I prefer? Well, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been personal training for over 20 years. I have a master's in nutrition, personal training certification through ACSM, a couple other certifications, and I have helped people do everything under the sun. You can go to our website, actually, www.brutalirongym.com, and on the homepage is actually a description of my client history, like the categories of people I've worked with. So I work with people in over 7 countries right now. Over half of my clients are actually personal trainers. I've helped people in aesthetic sports, athlete rehab, scholarships for college sports, CrossFit Games athletes, dancers, endurance athletes, medication reduction for arthritis, cholesterol, and a bunch of other things, military prep, modeling, musicians, nutrition therapy, Olympic athletes, powerlifting, pregnancy, both pre and post. Professional athletes, I've helped in multiple different sports. I have one of my clients is a 2-time world champion for the firefighter challenge, combat challenge. I've helped people with special needs, both nutrition and training wise, and helped strongman athletes and a lot more. So I've helped a lot of people, a lot of variety of backgrounds and goals. And absolutely 100% what works is what we have on our website for free. If you go to free nutrition education on our website, the first link under there is a create your own nutrition program link. It's a document that contains a supporting podcast along with a summary of information that's discussed in the podcast that will teach you how to create your own nutrition program that'll be fully customized to you. It'll teach you what the most important components are, and it'll teach you how to blend it into your lifestyle with your preferences, your schedule, your needs. It's free. It's free. That is what I prefer. That's what works. Is, for example, we talk about time blocks, not specific meal times. So one of the ways I help people is I tell them to divide their day into thirds. So if you think of we have 24 hours in a day, we're usually asleep at least 6 of those hours. We'll just say that. So that means we have 18 hours that we're awake. If I divide the 18 hours into 3 blocks, I have the first 6 hours of being awake, the middle 6 hours of being awake, and then the final roughly 6 hours of being awake. So 6, 6, 6, not a really great number there, sequence, but first 6 hours, middle 6 hours, last 6 hours. You want to eat a third of your total calories and protein within the first 1/3 of the day. A third of your calories and protein in the second 1/3 of the day. And then the final third of your calories and protein in the final 1/3 of the day. It doesn't matter if you eat 1 meal within those time blocks, 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals. It doesn't matter if you eat at the beginning of the time block, the end of the time block, the middle of the time block. If you just get it into the time blocks, you'll be consistent enough to make progress. But that allows for freedom to adjust based on what is happening to you that day. So time blocks versus specific meals. That's an example of a structural change of a diet that allow us to be more consistent and therefore will be more successful. Also, we talk about using foods that you enjoy. As long as you're, kind of matching your needs. Like I said, if you have a long time gap between meals, you probably want to focus more on fats and proteins and maybe blend the fats and carbohydrates in that meal. If you have a short time frame between meals, carbohydrates will be better than fats. If you're eating a meal directly before training, then absolutely carbohydrates and no fats. So timing your nutrients, timing your carbs and fats, it's explained in that document. That's super helpful. And it allows you to understand which foods are best, but then also within each category, pick the foods that you like. Pick the foods that are convenient for you to prepare. And in that document, in that supporting podcast, we teach you what are the most important components. So you know if you have to change things, what's the least negatively impactful change you can make. So the 5 reasons why most diets fail: schedule, food choices in regards to taste, food choices in regards to convenience, balance of structure and adaptability, and they don't teach. So how do we correct that? All of those things. We let you take back control of your schedule, taking back control of the food choices so you can get the right taste and the right convenience for you. There's enough structure to make progress, but enough adaptability so that way you can personalize it, and we teach you what are the most important things to know. And it's all free. Again, you can go to our website, go to Free Nutrition Education, click on that first link, listen to the podcast, read through the document, make your own nutrition program. That will help you be more consistent. And that's the key to being successful. Okay? Well, I hope that was helpful. Hopefully it was interesting, and I hope you check out that document on our website. If you have any questions, let me know. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like our podcast, please share it. The more people we share the podcast with, the more people we can help. So thank you to everybody who does share the podcast. I truly appreciate it, and hopefully they will if they get helped from it, whoever you share it with. Thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. I appreciate it very, very much. There is a high hosting cost, all the different platforms that we try to be available on. If you want to donate, you can do so on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. Even just $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can give, it's very helpful. It goes directly towards those costs. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and please follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.